Let Mikey do it.
I don't think they did.
Tipping on that.
Good evening, everyone. Would like to call to order the March 12th, 2019 meeting of the Utilities Committee. Roll call, Madam Secretary, let the record show all members of this committee are present with the exception of Benny Johnson. He has a work-related issue and could not attend tonight. I ask everyone to rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led tonight by our Vice Chair, Oliver Joseph.
Bow our head. Dear Lord, I want to bless this board to make the right decision for the constituent we have. Dear Lord, bless all our citizens. Dear Lord, bless this great state, this great parish. Dear Lord, bless all the armed forces service who serve this great country to give us the freedom we have today. Dear Lord, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good evening, everyone, and we'll move right along to item number 3 is Chair's additions. There are none this evening, so item 4 is the public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on any of the items that we have on the agenda tonight, come forward and sign up a speaking card with the secretaries, and you will be given 3 minutes at the appropriate time. Item number 5 is approval of our minutes from our last
So
meeting.
moved.
Is moved by Councilman Lawler, second by Councilman Dawson, that we approve the minutes from the February 12, 2018 meeting.
No, 19.
That's a mistake. We're having difficulties with our secretaries on.
The description is correct, though.
Okay, we have moved into the calendar year 2019, so we are voting on the February 12th, thank you, Mr. Joseph, 2019 meeting minutes. Any discussion? No objections? Hearing none, the minutes are adopted. Item number 6 is our director's report. Mr. William Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. The director's report is going to kind of be embedded in the other discussions that we have, so I don't have one per se.
We appreciate that judicious use of our time, so we'll hold water until we have Mr. Daniel come up with the, well, stay right where you are, Mr. Daniel. Item number 7 is a update of the committee from the NACO trip in Washington, D.C. Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Myself and several council members and President Matassa went to Washington, D.C. We met with Congressman Graves. We met with Senator Cassidy. We met with Senator Kennedy's aide. We met with Congressman Abraham. We met with Congressman Cedric Richmond. So I missed the Cedric Richmond. I had to catch a plane, but I understand that it was very fruitful. However, the message that I want to bring back from Congressman Graves is we talked to him about sewer in the parish. He has helped us secure close to $1.8 million for the design of the sewer plant at Hillaryville. He indicated a willingness to work with us on the construction of that plant as well. I was at my desk on Friday morning. I got a call from the Corps of Engineers in New Orleans wanting to set up a meeting that Congressman Graves had asked for. So that's what I call good legislative action. So that meeting is going to be scheduled here in the very near future, and we're going to try to come up with a funding plan to fund that particular plant. And I presume you don't want to hear about all the roads and drainage, but those went excellent as well.
Okay, appreciate the report. Mr. Daniel, we'll turn it over to the committee for discussion.
I really don't have any questions, but I thought it was a very good trip, and you know, I think Senator Kennedy's aide, I mean, he came up with some different avenues for us to receive federal funding, which you know, I thought was good. Some of those you've told me since then are, you know, just name changes, but still.
If you had been at the Rotary Club meeting today, Councilman Dawson, you could have seen all of the. I had
Had
I
that
did a
dog full
presentation.
show?
I did the full show today at the Rotary Club. I'll be happy to give it at any council meeting. It was about 30 minutes. I think there is more judicious use of your time, however.
Anyway, yeah, well, we usually, and we should come back encouraged that we can get some federal funding, so,
Well, I
that was
mean,
good.
to get a call on Friday morning from the Corps of Engineers, I was very encouraged.
Yeah. Thank you.
For my part, I'll just go ahead and say, I apologize I say I apologize, I really couldn't prevent it. I was scheduled to go to that meeting in NACO. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend. My flight was canceled due to Winter Storm Scott Sunday. In conversations with our chairwoman, Tara Casso, and Mr. Daniel, it was decided that, fly up there one day and fly back, and pretty much the day after the meeting which was scheduled with Mr. Graves would not be the most judicious use, I guess, of taxpayer monies, even though I am the chair of the committee. So I look forward instead to, as Mr. Daniel indicated to me when we texted back and forth during that period of time, working with the Army Corps of Engineers, particularly since, they're right there in New Orleans, and so we're looking forward to making that trip and seeing if we can get that $1.8 million that Mr. Daniel has reported to begin the design work on the Hillaryville sewer plant, as well as some of the other things which I'm going to hold water on, because on the next item, we're going to be discussing that, which is labeled as the North Sewer regional plant. And then, of course, we're going to also talk about the South plant, which is the old modified P16. So, Mr. Joseph, the comments about NACO?
That changed.
Okay, Mr. Daniel, very fine. So we'll move along to item number 8, which is discussion of the North and South Regional Sewer planning. Some of this is going to be old. Some of this is going to be new. I will also report to this committee that prior to this, to catch me up not only on NACO, so I wouldn't be totally ignorant up here this evening, Mr. Daniel asked me for a meeting. I accepted the same, and it was held this afternoon at 4:30 in the government complex. In fact, the entire leadership was there, one shy of obviously the quorum. Mr. Joseph joined us in that meeting, and we've had, I thought, a very healthy discussion of the North and South Regional Sewer Planning, and looking forward to hearing him now announce that in public. So, William, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, we are starting to move forward with regional sewer plans. Like I said previously, we've got $1.8 million that's being used to design the Hillaryville, and I call it the South Regional Plant. We may decide that it needs a better name in the future, but for now I'm calling it the South Regional Plant. I have some working papers which I'm going to load into Novus for the next meeting. But these are this is a description, or this is a schematic of the South Plant. This is Interstate 10. This is Highway 44. So what we have at the bottom, this is the Hillaryville wastewater treatment plant. This is the CDBG project that we're getting ready to do. We just awarded the engineering contract to GSA to do the LA 22 portion of that contract. So this will all be tied in the somewhat near future. And then we'll start working on the LA 44 point. So, concurrent with that, we're going to be working with the Corps of Engineers to try to find out if they're going to be able to fund it. If not, then we're going to look for other funding. We have the money from DEQ that we can use as well. But what we're currently doing is we have counted up the houses. We've looked at how we might get other and like I say, I'll put all this in Novus for the next time. But this is a potential future tie-in from Sorrento, other undeveloped tracts of land that probably are going to be developed in the not-too-distant future as well that we can tie into the system, plus bringing it, also the sewer from further south. So it's got all the makings of a a nice little southern regional system. So that's the southern regional system. Now, the north system, let me just say for the record, when you say parish-wide sewer, that is the ultimate goal, but it's not an immediate goal. The most immediate goal is to get in my mind, is to get a north and south regional plant going, get the backbone of a sewer system, and then start connecting all of the neighborhoods to it. As we get more neighborhoods connected to it, then we can branch out further and further to get the rest of the parish. But it's not going to happen immediately. We certainly can plan for the long-range planning, but that's going to be somewhat in the future. So we are negotiating with two companies for sewer plant location on the river. Methanex and Nova Chemical.
Mr. Williams, you're gonna show those maps. Can you put that on the overhead? Can we get some assistant? So,
I don't know if they're 11 by 17. I don't know. if
well,
they're-
just that area you won't cover or whatever.
Okay.
But the map you showed earlier, all I seen was colors. I didn't see nothing else.
It's an eyesight
That's a
thing.
little bit better, right?
That's not bad, and it can move it obviously around.
So obviously, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a plant near the Mississippi River. And this acreage right here is for sale. We're looking at some configuration of property. We're talking to Nova Chemical, some configuration of property here that we can exchange with them for some parish services. So they ask us, show us kind of a schematic of where you would like to do it. So we're working on this right here, and we're gonna be experimenting with a couple of 30-acre tracts here that preserves the majority of their tract and kind of puts a buffer zone between that and the other property. But obviously, we could be very flexible and move it anywhere we'd like to do it. And then along with that, I plan on giving them, and then this is going to be pretty hard to put on the screen, but this is going to kind of be a conceptual model. This is the end of 42, where we have sewer currently today, and so we're looking at how would we get it all the way to the river. So we have, in a series of plats, have a conceptual model of how it might go all the way to the river. And this isn't engineering, but this is more of a model. And as you can see, there's the green and the blue, and those represent different sewer lines. But the red area is what we think we can grab for customers initially. So anything inside the red is what we think we can grab for customers. And as we proceed along, this is back to Highway 73. This sewer is in place. We'd have to, this is coming from 61 to 73. And like I said, you'll get better maps in the future. And then this goes down 73 all the way to the proposed sewer treatment plant. So that's kind of the north system. There's thousands of customers available there for the plant, and that's the direction that we're going to be working as we go forward.
Yeah, I'll just make some remarks to be sure everybody kind of, the newcomers to the committee. This is something that we've discussed in utilities for the last 8 years, and I believe in the meeting we just had with Mr. Daniel, Vice Chair corrected me and said actually 13 years. Let's drag up the old term, a modified P16 regional sewer system serve mostly the Prairieville area. And as Mr. Daniel said, these drawings are not engineering, but they're preliminary drawings to kind of, and the task has been given to correct individuals, appropriate individuals in the administration, to how many customers could we have if we did eventually connect Highway 42, where the parish has, of course, sewer pipes in the ground, although they don't go anywhere, and also 73 via the Airline Highway, and then continue to go south all the way down to this petrochemical property, which, as Mr. Daniels said, there are two options still on the table. One, we can outright buy some land. The other would be maybe the petrochemical company would donate us 20 to 30 acres. And right now, Mr. Daniels working with those gentlemen, folks to, just suggest right now, spitballing, how would they still have access to their property when they expand their facility, and how would we get to ours once when I say ours, if it were donated to us, so forth and so on. I might also add, and William, you might want to say something about it, for the old timers like OJ and I, we have been on multiple field trips as a committee to see the various types of plants, modern-day tertiary sewer plants that exist in the state of Louisiana, and even outside the state, we went to some. Most noteworthy was the one in Lake Charles where there's a boat clarifier. And jumping back to his comments on the south system, not the modified P16 north system he was talking about. The Army Corps of Engineers gentleman has been in contact with us, talking about, there are various scenarios. If we, for example, wanted to just build this thing on our own, I don't know, William, I don't put words in your mouth, it might be $10, $12 million. If, on the other hand, and please correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, if the feds get involved, it's a $20 million project, but they want to develop a standard sewer system, not a boat clarifier. I know the past committee members, I don't know how you gentlemen feel, so I would encourage you to go on some new field trips that Mr. Daniel is going to arrange for your benefit. The boat clarifier system. Everybody wants it, but it's more expensive, and I think the decision, if we go forward with this, and I surely hope we do, eventually is going to get down to how much do we want to bear in the cost to have the type of technology that we think is needed versus the kind that the Army Corps of Technology says they will pay for.
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrupt you,
No, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, but I don't know that it's necessarily more expensive, but the Corps is saying that it's a proprietary technology, and they don't want to design something that's proprietary, so they'll design a more of a standard system, whereas, but the way that we asked them to do it was, well, design, you can add the boat clarifier to the end of the sewer system, so we could use their design for that, and then have someone design the boat clarifier for us for the end, and we could use the two systems like that. We're talking about the design today is two 900,000 trains, gallon per day trains. We're going to look at that as well here in the future. Councilman Johnson asked me maybe to look at one bigger train, so we're going to look at that as well in the future. So, but yes, the boat clarifier is certainly one of the options. We've arranged a trip on the 18th to go down and see the boat clarifier in Lake Charles. I'm going to be sending an invitation to everybody to see if they'd like to go. Then we're going to try to stop back. They're working on stopping back and looking at a conventional system on the way back. So that will be available to anybody who would like to come, as long as we don't have a quorum.
Right.
Then I'll
And
have to make other arrangements.
Let me make a comment about that. The way we asked, literally, now, I think OJ is probably still available to us, and I don't know who of the, quote, old dogs, one of the old dogs, Benny Johnson's not even here tonight, but if push comes to shove and we go over 3 members beyond, I'm sure Mr. Dawson, Mr. Lawler would want to go and see what the boat clarifier looks like in the more standard of the industry.
I've been to the Lake Charles.
Oh, you've seen that? I don't remember that.
No, you went up there.
Oh, you went on your own?
The police jury, when we were
Yeah.
there for
Okay.
the police jury.
Well,
you go to
whatever,
the,
but the way we handled
See
it,
the system?
Uh-huh.
if a lot of people want to go, I guess my
It
point
looked
would
like a
be,
bunch of pipe and water.
You saw it.
And a boat, yeah.
Yeah.
Concrete.
Uh,
the way we would handle it, though, is
Can't fool you.
we would call a special meeting, and we can meet in the parking lot, and then call a meeting to order, go on the trip, come back in the parking lot, and call it.
We just
not an
have to
order.
advertise 24 hours
Right.
ahead of time.
So I would just say that once you know who wants to go, that wants to get further education or brand-new education, let us know, and we can get that part done if we get over the quorum issue. I'm just saying, don't be bashful, because I think it'd be helpful in our discussions going forward beyond this very preliminary phase. The other comment I wanted to make is that going back up to the other system, the South system again, it's my understanding, Mr. Daniel, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we believe that there may be, or maybe it's the Army Corps of Engineers believes, that there'd be, the system they want to design, there'd be as many as 3,566 customers. I know we're looking into that. When you consider that we come down the two highways in question and get to that Hillaryville plant, which would encompass a lot of Pelican Point and in the future Rivington and so forth and so on. So that's a positive thing. And I did ask you, so what would be the customer base for the other system? And while we don't know, if you paid attention to the few overheads that William put up there, inside of those red areas it incorporates a lot of density of a lot of subdivisions. So I have to guess that we'd have probably several thousand customers as well if that system gets off the ground. Is that not correct?
That is correct, sir. GSA did a report where they counted the customers. We haven't quite finalized the report. It's still in draft form, but we're going to bring it out. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,200 customers, 3,400. I can't remember the exact number, but I'll get that report out as well. Then we also have the customers from the Hillaryville, Darrow area as well. So.
Right. And I think it's probably, we need to put our cards on the table, because I don't know where, if any, resistance is going to occur to some of this, but it's been clear in the past that one does not make money in the sewer business. Instead, unlike, the water utility, there's a likelihood that we would probably operate in red ink for a year or two, maybe 3, but eventually the hope is, and I'm confident we could, operate, break even in these situations. People are still asking me, so why are you even doing it? Well, it's very simple. Let's never forget that the state watchdog agencies are not happy with our impaired waterways and the MODAD treated private individuals as well as the package plant individuals that are dumping inappropriate effluent, if I could use that word. Some of it is, treated raw sewage, at least in a MODAD sense, into our ditches, and they're going into our, formerly pristine waterways that are now considered impaired. Bayou Goudin, Bayou Manchac up in my neck of woods and elsewhere. So I hope we passed that discussion, and it's just not operating for the newcomers in any way a surprise that we're bringing the sewer back up. My hope, though, this time is that we're going to bring something to fruition. I think we have not only the existing in-house expertise on board now, we also have the SRF loan that Mr. Daniel mentioned not too long ago. We have the federal assistance. He didn't put numbers on it. I'm sure we'll learn more when we meet with the Army Corps of Engineers, but beyond the $1.8 million for design of the South system, there's a good bit of money that we could have there through a federal agency to actually put toward building that plant and all, and so forth and so on. So that's why, and I must say, Mr. Daniel had, through the administration, put 7 and 8 on the agenda without me even asking. And when the draft was sent to your chairman, I was all prepared and had my pencil sharpened to add the 2 items. So I don't know if that's dangerous that we're like-minded there, but I've been telling him we obviously missed the first meeting when the committee assignments were redone with the new leadership at the council level. That'd be the January meeting. We did have one, of course, in February, so I told William no later than March, I want to at least be telling people that we're serious about doing something here. And
That's why they're on the agenda. I took your threat seriously.
Okay, I didn't know if you took that seriously or not. I mean, you probably think it's still maybe a little bit even too premature, but get those diagrams to this committee. Let's get our guys that need to go and want to go, refresher or new, to the field trips and get a look at some of that technology. And one more thing besides meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers on the South system. What was the other issue that there was something else that we'd covered? I thought maybe the committee could start to get their arms around. Having a senior moment, I apologize for it. If it comes up later, I will bring it up.
Happen to us all the time. One of us, you don't have to, one of us sometime.
Older I get, the worse it gets, it seems like. But anyway, the chair is serious, and I think the members of this committee are serious. So we're going to move, hopefully much further beyond where we are right now in even the envisioning. There's no doubt the South system is ongoing and will come to fruition. The question is the North system, and there's some issues yet. Folks think we need taxes. Some folks think we need to have a partner in terms of funding. Other folks may believe we can just use SRF funding, da-da-da-da-da-da. But I'm, again, going to be relentless to bring these issues forward as we do them and get past them and try in each case. Oh, I remember what it is. Senior moment over. I've also met, I want the committee to know it, with Mr. Daniel, and present at that meeting was President Matassa. Let's see if I can get this right. Tim Hardy and one of his lieutenants that's advising us on sewer, our own legal counsel, O'Neill Parrington, Mr. Ken, not Bill Dawson, was there, Mr. Daniel and myself. I had asked Mr. Daniel about when I served as a member, but not in a leadership role as committee, we had visited sewer ordinances, and we did some very good and positive things, not the least of which I think is very helpful. We altered our codes to say no longer is the Parish of Ascension going to allow a new subdivision to be built, and then that package plant from the developer is turned over to a private vendor for $1, and we go from there. So it's pretty much capped now, and it's decided we're in the sewer business, and that's not happening anymore. So now the next big question on all of that is, how are we going to proceed on that? So at the meeting, I asked her, let's look at the sewer ordinances again, and I will admit I put forward an agenda in which I'm going to say maybe about a half a dozen or more different spots in the code I thought could maybe be strengthened, with the idea that even if we never get into the modified P16 system or the North system, as Mr. Daniel is calling it, it still would be good for the Parish of Ascension to have some of these rules and regulations strengthened, much in the same way as we went through recently as the council, the hard work of doing that with traffic impact studies, and now, as it works out, coming up just in 2 days, drainage impact studies and the floodplain management plan. Same thing with our sewer ordinances. At that meeting, Mr. Daniel was given some tasks, Mr. Hardy was given some tasks, Mr. Parrington was given some tasks, sometimes two or more of them collectively. And I know the answer, but for the record, because I asked Mr. Daniel about it just this evening before coming over here, we haven't made a lot of progress there, but people are considering what they were asked to do, and hopefully we'll be able to bring in front of this committee suggested changes to our sewer ordinances to strengthen them and get us further along the way to these regional systems that we're discussing. Is that?
Well, your timetable is very aggressive, Mr. Chairman, and we're going to do our best to keep up with you.
Okay. Appreciate that.
But I'll tell you, you mentioned earlier about your tenacity in bringing sewer to the parish. And, I'm going to be equally as tenacious. I think this committee wants the sewer. I think the council wants the sewer. But I think it sort of saddens me what a great parish this is, and what a wonderful place to live, and such great schools. And, we put sewer in a ditch, that kids play in, and it creates all kinds of problems. We talked about some last night with the drainage and getting back at people's houses. It creates problems for our stormwater issues with EPA as well. So, and not least of which, it creates problems if that we ever want to, improve all of our roads. We're going to have sewer pipe in the ditch before we can widen, have these capacity projects that everybody wants to do. We're doing a great job on the safety projects, but to do the real nice road projects that increase the capacity for people in the parish and do away with a lot of traffic congestion, you have to have sewer pipes in the ditch. So there's so many reasons to move forward with this. I just don't see how it's not going to happen.
Yep. And let me, as a final comment, we just can't allow any more, how you want to say, people to violate. And by people, I mean, that's if you are an individual with a MODED sewer treatment system, or if you are in a subdivision and you have a package plant or whatever. And we know the state of Louisiana, through its watchdog agencies, you know, they may censor multiple times and then over a 10-year period sort of forgive and forget for several $100,000 type thing. So part of my aggressive style here, as Mr. Daniel talked about, is, well, if the state's not going to police it and we don't have that lever, then at the local level, I think it would be smart that we do that so that we can let the private vendors know and we can let the individuals know that we're serious about sewer and we're not going to tolerate offenders anymore. So there's going to be a lot on that. And I don't know, Mr. Daniel, if you want to hold water, but one of the things we talked about is a system that's being used in Texas.
Harris County.
And maybe we'd want to elaborate a little bit on what they're doing and how successful that is, because we're also planning, let the cat out of the bag right now, the elephant in the room, Bill. We're gonna be going, hopefully myself and Mr. Daniel and whoever else wants to go inside of the quorum, to Texas and Harris County and visit these guys and ask them, how is this working? But Mr. Daniel, maybe a few words on that.
So what Harris County does is they require every single-family residential sewer system to be serviced once a month. They have equipment, SCADA equipment on every system that when the serviceman shows up, he logs in that he does the work, and when he leaves, he logs out, monitors other things. It's relatively inexpensive. So as a government, we really don't have to get involved in making sure it works. The homeowner can select whatever private service person that they would like to come out and take care of their system, but we want to make sure that the systems are functioning properly, and that's what the service call would ensure. If the serviceman does not show up within an appointed time period, then he is fined automatically. The software spits out a letter and sends it to him, and he's fine. So it seems to be working very well. They've adopted in other parts of the country, but Harris County is the closest place we can go look at it. So I've spoken with the people in Harris County, and they'd love for us to come down and see it. So they'd like to show it off. So we're going to take advantage of their willingness to host us.
Okay. Questions, gentlemen, for Mr. Dawson?
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. And, you know, first, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with you. North-South treatment plant, you know, a few 900,000 million gallons a day. You know, I've said this many times, and I still think that we need a parish-wide plan. I agree with you that we don't have to bring every resident into that a plan that shows them over the next few years. But, you know, I was doing some real quick numbers here, and you probably already have them, and maybe mine are wrong, but I'm looking at 10 million gallons a day. That's, you know, approximately what we need parish-wide if we're looking at, you know, under the current, with the current residents that we have, say 30,000 households here. So, you know, we're looking at a plan to build 2 treatment plants, each one of those, say, in the range of 2 million gallons a day, you know, which gets us not even halfway there. So, you know, again, I would like to see us.
I don't know what the North treatment plant capacity is. It's the southern plant that's about 2 million gallons a day, sir.
Well, whatever it is, I mean, a rough number says that probably 10 to 12, probably it'd be more like 14 or 15 by the time we get around to it. But all I'm saying is the point of that is that if we're going to go and we're going to build 2 plants, then we need to know what we need to do for the future, and that if there is something that there's some synergism that we can obtain by doing something, we need to at least have this plan that says this is where we're going to be 10 years from now, this is where we're going to be 5 years from now. And I'm 1,000% in on the monitoring, and I think that should be a part of the plan. And I really do believe that if we can set up a good monitoring system of individual treatment plants and the subdivision treatment plants, then that would buy us some time from being under a consent order. I mean, I don't know where we are under, you know, with, in relation to being under a consent order, but I know this, that, you know, one day is coming.
It's absolutely coming.
Yeah.
But, I mean, but this is what DEQ is looking for. They're looking for us to be moving forward.
Exactly.
And I think that we are definitely moving forward on this, and I'm very optimistic. And yes, we're going to count the number of, you know, possible homes for a parish-wide sewer system and make allowances for ultimately capturing all that. But it's going to have to be done in stages, and I think you understand that.
No, I mean, I'm all in for that. However, I wouldn't like to see the plan done in stages.
No, we're going to do the
Okay.
plan.
Okay.
But you know, I'm trying to get the land, so I have to have
Yeah, no,
I need to have a conceptual idea of how we're going to get it there so that they can see that we're not just taking 30 acres and.
Yeah. I
Parking
think, I do believe one of the simplest things, may not be entirely simple, but one of the quickest things that we can do is this monitoring. And I think that we can get the most benefit from that. You know, not only do we have these subdivision plants that, you know, my experience with them is that probably if you went and monitored them today, you'd find them out of compliance. And, you know, the individual treatment plants in people's residences, probably will find them out of compliance or find the equipment not properly operating. And, you know, that is going into our ditches, going into the AMIC, going into the Manchac, and that's the reason that we're under the TMDL. So, you know, again, I appreciate, you know, all the work that you've done, and I appreciate where you are. I have one last thing, and which is, you know, I think that we need a manager for this, that we need either utilities or somebody specifically for sewer. You do a fantastic job, and however, you're spread too thin. And
We're working on that.
Okay,
Councilman.
okay.
We are working on that. So, and after today, I would agree with you. After the last 2 days, I would definitely agree with you.
Let me just follow up on what Bill said, and I concur with both of the issues, and especially the latter about utilities director. And I made no secret of that in our meetings between Mr. Daniel and I, and he's asked for my permission, which I granted, and I can't say I did that on behalf of the committee, but to let him work with administration to get to the point to where, you know, a utility director becomes a reality. I'm comfortable with that for right now, because I do believe what you said, Bill, is correct. This is a talented man in front of us, but this is a monumental task that we're going to do here in sewer, and it's no secret. He said it in public. He said it to me. One of the reasons he took the job was to bring sewer to Ascension. Look how much on our agenda, for example, is just being had with the ACUD issue and the PUA issues and so forth. It'd be nice to kind of turn at least the water part of this utilities over to a utility director and let Mr. Daniel concentrate. Just say it this way, more exclusively as opposed to just solely.
We'll get
So-
one of each.
I'm all for that, and that's something that this committee, of course, can keep monitoring for a while, and then eventually, I guess, we can speak at any given time. We can tell the administration that we need to have this done. But I would want Mr. Daniel to be blessing that, quite frankly. But Aaron, you've been patient.
Once again, when you follow these two guys, you don't usually have much to say. It's kind of like these.
That never stopped you before.
Where you see, Aaron, we can
You know,
move you
Councilman, I don't agree with that. I think you always have something to say.
There's always something, but trust me. No, actually, they brought up a lot of good points. First of all, from the monitoring aspect, that's something I think we should move on regardless of whether we're doing sewage or not, quite frankly. I know the Jefferson Crossing subdivision, I get calls all the time from the people in there that have issues with the plant that's in there, whether it's smell, noise, whatever it is, and they can't be in compliance all the time. And we really need to do this for the people of Ascension Parish, start monitoring that sort of thing. That's our duty as a government, to make sure that they're getting the services that they need, because we can't have a stinky neighborhood. I mean, it affects home prices. When people go to move in somewhere and it smells terribly, you're not going to sell the house for the same amount. That affects our taxes down the road.
Sure.
So if we could really push forward on that, it's exciting to hear what they're doing in Harris County. Maybe we'll get that soon. part of what I've been looking at is I agree with Bill that we need a parish-wide plan. I also agree with Bill that we need a utilities director because I really want to lean on you with this parish-wide plan to tie it into the rest of the infrastructure, specifically the road work. You had mentioned that before. Right now, we're doing a master plan. I believe it's CPEX that's helping us with that. But part of what I see that doing is it's going to advise us where we can have increased population, and that's going to direct us to where we should put the sewage in the future, the sewer lines, where we need the roads. But all of that has to tie in together, and I'd hate to see us move forward with this without having a true master plan for the whole parish as far as sewage goes.
I guarantee you, Councilman, we will have a master plan
Okay.
for sewer.
Because, I mean, that's, I know we talk a lot about 621, widening that one day, or multiple different roads. That's just by example. But we're not going to do that unless we get a sewage line under there.
That's correct. And I don't want anybody to confuse a master plan with a study. It's not a study. This is going to be a blueprint on how to do it and what steps, that we're going to do along the way. I know I've looked back at the history of sewer in the parish, and there's been lots of studies done, and then there's been some plans too. And look, this Southern Regional sewer plant, I was telling Councilman Satterley and Councilman Joseph this afternoon, I'd love to take credit for it, but I just researched back through and saw, hey, look, they wanted to build this here and build that. Why didn't we do it? Because this is pretty easy stuff. And so there's lots of good information there. Some of the engineering companies sitting behind me in the audience has a lot of the good information as well. So, we'll be leaning on them too, but we'll have a master plan. We're not going to just build it helter-skelter, I assure you.
Okay.
That's not the way we do business.
Additionally, and one of the things that I remember years ago when I first got on the council, this was one of my concerns, is we are a growing parish. We just heard earlier today about, we've got a possible $2 billion plan that wants to employ 600 people. That means more families coming into the parish. The great schools bring in more families into the parish. We need to make sure that whatever we do is expandable. And that we
it
plan
will
for
be.
that.
We'll build it so that we can add on to it.
Okay, and that we have the property. I mean, if the 30 acres isn't enough, let's not box ourselves in.
30 acres is plenty.
Okay, well, that's all I have to add. We're really in the early stages, so keep up the hard work.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Joseph.
How you doing, Mr. Dan?
I'm doing well, sir.
Oh, like I say, I've seen all this before and I heard all this before. Okay?
Not for me.
Once again, many of them have stood in front of where you have, and I've heard it, seen it, and guess where we at? Here you. Now, I'm going to ask you one question I ask everybody else. Okay?
Yes, sir.
From your experience, doing sewage and going with the future of Ascension Parish, based on how we fund these projects, and right now it's O&M and federal funds, can we do that just doing that? No other mechanism of funding?
I would say probably not.
Good answer.
But I have, in fact, one of the items on here is talking about sewer rates, and Susan pulled all the different sewer rates around the area, Shreveport, Mandeville, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, St. James. I mean, we got them all here. They all do something different. But even looking at those sewer rates, you can't really tell because you look at the Baton Rouge sewer rates and you see what they're charging, but they also have a half-cent sales tax dedicated to it. So I don't know what are the, some of these other municipalities and parishes have dedicated as well. But let me just assure you that no master plan will be complete without a funding plan as well. So we'll have a funding plan with the master plan.
Sound good. Appreciate the answer.
Yes, sir.
So,
Do we need a round two, gentlemen, or?
No.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daniel. We'll move right along now to item number 9. which is an update on the SCWR 11002 Community Development Block Grant Project. Mr. Daniel.
So if I could get, how do I get this thing to?
I think they're gonna do it inside.
You just have to be patient.
Oh, well, we're done then.
We need some assistance.
There it is.
Okay, so that project is right here. That's the Hillaryville area. That's going to be, we've acquired for sure. We had it in the court system, but as of Thursday, we'll own the last piece of property that we needed to have every single piece of property to build this. We've got all of our obligations done through the Office of Community Development. The plans are with Pan American Engineers, which is, they're the parish's consultant to make sure all of our OCD and HUD and CDBG obligations are met, and we're going to bid it out on March 28th, according to Ms. Collins.
Capacity of that?
That is the,
Well, this is just a very small area, and so the, there's some improvements to the plant. There are, but the most exciting thing about it is there's a number of people here that we're going to be able to connect to the system that the CDBG money is going to pay for. About 60 people. Everybody else is going to be required to connect. They're going to have to do that at their own expense, so it might be a little difficult for some of the families in that area to do so, but we'll work with them and we'll try to make it happen for them. But this project has been, this was Ike Gustav money, I think. Ike Gustav money, so that means it's been around for 8 years that we've been trying to get this project off the ground, and it's going to bid March 28th. So if I can get it done by the end of March, I can keep my job, Mr. President told me. So I'm hoping that Martha's right about the 28th.
What was that number? I missed it.
Sir?
The capacity, did you say what the capacity?
Oh,
was?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's very small
Okay.
at this point.
Yeah.
There's
Few
not-
100,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Maybe not even that much.
it wasn't that much because we built that main line with the Corps of
Right.
Engineer just for the small capacity, and that's why
Right.
they had the extra line.
Yeah, if you
Just
see there's
for-
two, well, it's gone now, but there's
Yeah.
two lines there. We're adding the extra line for when we come down Highway 22 and build a larger plant.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that project been going on. what the-
Forever.
Glenn, what was the name of the government agency out of Dallas when we started this project? That money. Yeah, it been there a long time, so
Well,
Kudos.
Evans Graves actually doing the engineering. All the construction documents have been prepared. Pan American Engineers is a grant manager for the parish. So the construction documents are currently residing with Pan Am Engineers. They're making sure that we've met all our CDBG obligations, and then they're going to release them back to us, and we'll bid it out on March 28th. We've done several amendments. We've got a release of funds. Everything is in excellent shape.
Okay. Item number 10 is a discussion of, and my computer is loading, of commercial and residential sewer rates. This is a holdover from our last committee agenda.
Right. This actually came up because we're charging the commercial clients on ACUD number 1 the exact same amount as we're charging the residential, which is wrong. We're going to correct that. We've been looking at, there was actually, in 2011, the original ordinances that were passed had rates for commercial users, but I think that we have overwritten that law with another law that said we were going to publish those rates on our website, which we have never done, to my knowledge. I can't find anywhere where that was ever done. When Councilman Satterley talks about rewriting all the sewer ordinances, this is a prime example of some things that need to be fixed. So we are going, Councilman Joseph he's kind of given me a little formula to tinker with, how he would like to see it look. So I'm going to be taking a look at that. I'm looking at all these other sewer rates, trying to get more information. But I think the bottom line is, what we want to do is calculate how much it cost us to provide the service. City of Donaldsonville is actually treating it. We have some pump stations. What does it cost us to provide the service? How much money do we need to set aside for the future? What do we need to have in reserve? And then kind of back into the number that we're going to charge for sewer. And this is all West Bank. And then once we can actually, on the West Bank, we can actually use water rates to calculate the sewer as well, or we can stick with the 4250. But we definitely have to do something about the commercial.
Oh, hold on. Look at the start.
Yeah, and look, I'm,
Water rates, I meant water consumption.
yeah, water consumption. Me and Daniel had our little discussion on this, but the biggest thing is, it's not fair for a senior citizen or a one person who live in a house and only use 2,000 gallons of water, and put that in the sewer system, and we charging them a flat rate of $42.50. When if you charge them a flat rate of the 2,000, a certain amount of money, and anything over that a certain amount of money, it would be fair, because if Bill is using 20,000 gallons of water and he's still paying $42.50, that's not fair. So this is the reason why water consumption is very important on the West Bank, and it's a tool that we can learn from, on the East Bank in the future come up from. So I just hope me and Mr. Daniel come into mutual agreement on the rates.
Well, I with all due respect, sir, I don't think I have any choice.
The chair has nothing on this, so we'll go this way this time.
I've got nothing on this,
Aaron,
thank you.
Mr. Dawson.
Well, I'm supportive of Mr. Joseph's recommendation. I think we should go to water usage, and certainly, again, this is something that the more water that people use, the more they pay, and so we should try to encourage people to conserve.
I agree. It's just a matter of, again, it's just a matter of figuring out what is the correct formula.
The devil's in the details.
Yes, sir. And I, like I said, I have, I have quite a few sewer rates from around.
Well, I mean,
nobody
I looked at what all
nobody
had.
is the same. Nobody is the same. They all use different things to pay for it, to charge people. And again, some of the charges are hidden. They're in a sales tax, so you don't even see them. So, but we'll come up with something that, I'll come up with something that I'm sure Mr. Joseph will agree with.
There you go.
And Mr. Daniel, I know you, said ACUD1. I just want to make sure we understand it. The sewer system on this side of the river and the sewer system on the West Bank is totally different how we doing business. So we can't not have the same rate in these two different utility districts. It's just the dynamics and how we operate is totally different.
You're 100% correct. And we have a very good handle on the water consumption, so we know exactly how much water is being used. So, and then we know how much the city of Donaldsonville charges us for treatment. So we ought to be able to come up with a reasonable formula that should make everybody happy.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, that should make most people happy.
You won't get any grief, Mr. Daniel, from the chair. Mr. Lawler has a family issue, so you're going to notice he's going to be leaving us. That's fine. We don't have any actionable items. Three left to go. They're all
almost
discussions. So Aaron? We still have a quorum, so we can continue. Item number 11 then is the Parish Utilities of Ascension slash ACUD number 1 billing register with consumption for the month of January 2019. Mr. Daniel.
Yeah, this should be on your Novus system. So again, y'all have asked for the consumption from each system. So there it is for January, ACD number 1 and PUA. So be happy to answer any questions you might have about those two consumption reports.
It's in your package, gentlemen. Anyone? Give you a second to digest that.
So I'm more interested in a P&L type report. What was our expense for this is our revenue? This is all of our revenue?
The expense reports are temporarily on hold while Ms. Taylor figures out how we can get the information that we used to get off the new system.
We got the upgrade of the computer system glitch.
Right. We discussed it today. We're going to go meet with finance so that we can pull those numbers off into a meaningful report, and we'll have that to you hopefully next time.
Well, at least for now, Bill, we know there's revenue coming in. Oliver, do you have anything? Or?
No, the revenues, I mean, it's pretty consistent from the last couple of years that what we saying it was gonna cost about,
I'll tell you that the costs are down. So the costs are down in the system because we're using less chemical, and when we implement, make the changes at the plant and put in the new meters and everything, then that's going to drive costs down even further. We're going to have less labor costs because we're going to be repairing less leaks. We're not going to have the meter readers. And I just want to, when I say we're not going to have the meter readers, no one's going to lose their job. We have plenty of jobs other places in the parish, so nobody needs to get nervous. We're not going to lay anybody off, but we will not need meter readers like we need them now.
So we're a year or so away from that, or?
We're a year away. You can ask GSA how far away we are. They have to have the plans done by October 2nd. So
August, you said?
October 2nd. Look, they're under the gun right now. We had a little bit of a delay getting them started, so they're going to have to really work to meet the October 2nd deadline. And then we also have the plant improvements, and of course we're going to be remodeling the facility as well. So all of those plans have to be done, and they have to be approved by USDA, and then we can bid out the construction.
What about the leveling of the rates?
Well, that's my question about the action. In the meeting this afternoon, I think he came up with this here, so I think we're just gonna be at the point, Bill,
So
the rates, just preparing the public, instead of increasing the rates on it, just prepare them so when we can start, when we go to get the actual loan, that's when we bring in the rates, just.
Even the commercial and industrial rates?
Sir?
Even the commercial and industrial rates, we're not gonna level those?
Yes, sir. We're going to go with we're going to go with the plan. When you mean level them, I'm not sure.
When we gonna start them?
When you going to
Well,
start?
we'll level them with ACUD one.
Oh no. So the rate structure as we presented it last time, I think we're pretty set on. But I did promise Councilman Johnson that I would look at CPI, and then there's a CPI for utilities. And then there's other mechanisms that people use by calculating their expenses and whatnot, and having triggers based on different things. So I'm going to investigate that, and I'll have something for you next meeting on that. And if then it's up to the committee whether they want to tie it into the CPI or some other mechanism. And
Well, I mean, really, for right now, whether you use the CPI or not, that doesn't come into play until next year. So as far as implementing the rates,
I understand Mr. Johnson seemed to be very,
Let me just,
very vocal about me looking at that.
let me bring
before
that,
we-
this discussion to a conclusion. In the leadership meeting, OJ and myself and Mr. Daniel Wright, prior to this bill, if it's helpful, we kind of gave him the blessing that since Mr. Johnson, we knew wasn't going to be here tonight, that maybe we would hold water and let this go one more meeting before bringing it to any kind of finality. I think it's fair to say Mr. Daniel also has some things, but I don't think he needs to say them tonight because Benny's not here. But when he is here, as to what is the usefulness or lack thereof of using a CPI or even a specialized CPI tied to water, what have you. So I would just recommend that we kind of not table, that's the inappropriate thing.
Yeah, I don't.
Defer that discussion until
Yeah,
Benny Johnson's
I agree
here.
with you. I agree with your CPI and stuff. But Bill, what Bill's asking for, when is we gonna implement those rates
Oh,
to
that's
the West
we
Bank
can do
in a
that.
timely fashion, or we gonna split them
Well, we can talk about that. tonight,
gradually, or we gonna do it all at once? That's where you. That's
Well-
the question, right, Bill?
My recommendation would be as follows, and I'm all but certain you're going to disagree with this.
let me get ready.
So get your arguments prepared. This is the way I would do it. I would say September 1st, August 1st, October 1st, whatever date that you would like to pick, the new rates are going into effect. Now, between now and then, if you have leaks in your water system, you need to get them fixed. Because if you meet the minimum, that's not really changing and your water bill will stay relatively the same. But if you have leaks, the way we've designed it is, the less water you use, the more water you use, the more rapidly your bill goes up. Because as you said, we want people to conserve water. So we'll give them kind of a grace period to get their house in order, so to speak, and then implement the rates.
I'm not gonna say I'm opposed to that because I don't know what the rates are. But,
Well, we have, well, and I will email you the proposed rates tomorrow, sir.
well, I mean, unless they've changed. I have seen them, but I'm
They
just
haven't.
saying that right now they seem to be up in the air. But,
No, sir.
I'm not necessarily, I just don't want to see us increase the rates dramatically for the people that we serve there.
I understand.
That's the only concern that I have.
Well, and Bill, if Mr. Daniel come up with a real good plan and implement it to the West Bank citizen of PUA and letting them know way in advance and do some customer service, if you want them to come out there, check your meter and make sure
Yeah,
your system.
okay. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm
Well,
not gonna say I'm
We want to have
opposed
some
to.
public meetings and explain to everybody, we want to be as transparent as possible, the rates are going up. And, look, the bottom line is, we're going to be providing a better service. We're going to be providing a more accurate service. And we want, unfortunately, to do all that. And while we're providing a very high-quality water now, the changes that we're going to make are going to ensure that the water is not only going to be, smell good, taste good, be safe. So it just costs the money. And we were very fortunate to get almost a $9 million grant, $8 million grant from USDA. So I don't see how we could get a better deal. But the
Yeah.
rates have to go up to cover it. And USDA has specific requirements about the rating, the rate. You have to put money aside, et cetera.
So the only thing I'd add is, it would add to the educational process, what would have happened had People's Water maintained control. They were already at the Public Service Commission, and,
My understanding was they were going to ask for a 60% rate increase.
yeah, so that needs to be the educational process.
Yep, we agree.
Say it from the rooftops.
Okay.
Okay, I thought you were going to tell us about taking that Band-Aid off more than once, Mr. Daniel, but we'll hold on that as
Well,
well.
I've told Councilman Dawson that several times. He was not impressed with that story.
Moving right along,
Uh,
item, yes, sir?
Item 12.
Item number 12 It's the PUA monthly leak repairs report for the month of January 2019.
So you asked me to bring you all the leaks. We only had 2 this month. They were fairly large leaks. I say large leaks, they had a large duration before we got to fix them, based on our best estimate. So, we leaked about 1 million gallons from those 2 leaks, 911,000. But the good news is there are only 2 leaks. Now, that we found.
That you found.
Yeah, I could see Mr. Joseph about to come down with his hammer on me.
He's
so
going to
I-
tell you where another fire hydrant is leaking, I suppose, but now be gentle, OJ.
He knows where all the leaks
Hey,
are.
well, Mr. Daniel, I mean, look, I follow you guys. I ride around a lot in Donaldsonville. And I see them fixing a whole lot more leaks than what I'm seeing on here.
Well, this is
I mean,
January.
this just don't.
This is January, sir.
Just
I
one
can
month.
only, look, one of the most reliable
Mr. Daniel,
employees
let
in
me-
Ascension Parish.
Mr.
And this
Daniel,
is
let
what
me
Floyd
correct you.
gave us.
We have to
it's
talk
not
to
one-
Floyd. What is a leak? Floyd might do.
It's not 1 month, it's a full year. The first leak is 2018 and the second one's 2019.
Okay.
So we're maybe going to fix that change of the
Yeah,
calendar
yeah.
I
again.
get too many people telling me, you know about this leak on this street? When they gonna fix this leak? When they gonna?
Yeah.
And I know they fix.
Councilman Joseph, I can only go by what Floyd tells me.
I've
Mr.
been watching this list for a couple months now, and I'm going.
Mr. Foster is an exemplary employee, and I know that he would not fudge the leak list.
I'll put more than this on
And
here.
it hurts me to see you talk about him like that.
Wait, I'm gonna ask it myself. I'm gonna ask it myself.
Item number 13, and I got to admit, this is the one I've been waiting for because here's where the eyebrows are going to go up.
Right.
This is the PUA water audit report for January 2019. In this, Mr. Daniel's going to dazzle us and with his footwork and tell us how he can defy the third law of thermodynamics where matter cannot be created or destroyed. Mr. Daniel, tell us about the negative numbers we see.
I'm very happy that of the water that I lost the previous month.
You got it back.
You
didn't you?
created
I found 1.7 million gallons. So there are a number of explanations for this number. First of all, again, as I have oft repeated, the equipment that we're using to measure this water is highly suspect. But we also, and it's an evolving report. We learn something new every month, and one of the things that we learned new was about the consumption. And because of the fact that our meter readers read a portion of the water and then a portion, the consumption doesn't match because they read them at different times. So the consumption doesn't match the amount of water that we're making. They're from different time periods. And
So are they snapshot readings? You don't have totalizers on it?
no, so they read a third of the meters, and then they read a third of the meters, and then they read a third
Oh, I
of
see
the
what you're
meters.
saying.
So they read them at
Depends on
different
when you
times.
turn it on.
Different,
Yeah.
So it doesn't match up. That doesn't mean the report is bad. I mean, this is an anomaly to have a negative number. You know, we've gotten the number down low, but negative is.
Well, this committee, Mr. Daniel, and you've done what we asked, is asked for a monthly report. We could do what was it jokingly, I think you said, a rolling average?
We
and
could do a moving
we
average.
would never see a negative number, Bill. Oh, but
But I mean, I think what the report is that the efforts that Mr. Foster and his crew have made in identifying the leaks and plugging them, because the leaks again are only an estimate, and as Mr. Joseph pointed out, there may be more leaks than we know about, or that and sometimes I guess maybe they fix it and it happens so quick they don't estimate any water loss. But anyway, that's again, the numbers have remained fairly consistent from the volume of water that we take in and the filtered water. So again, just because I got kind of a anomalous number here, I think the trend is that we are getting you know, the amount of water that we're unable to account for has been decreasing. It can't decrease past zero, I'll grant you that, but it is decreasing. So that's the way I look at this.
Well, I guess if you could have an error in the positive direction, you could just as easily have one in the negative direction. That's
Absolutely.
the theory of it.
Yes, yes, sir.
Can I have a question?
Yes, before we adjourn, Mr. Dawson.
The ACUD 1 St. James, you've got that. Do we actually send any water to do we still send any water to St. James?
No, that's the water that we buy
It says
from.
exported.
Well, okay, so what we're doing is, I'm sorry, we're not sending it to St. James, that was the wrong.
This is just to go
This
to
is, this
ACUD
is
1.
this is water that we are basically selling to ACUD number 1.
Yeah.
Correct.
So maybe we can correct this, take St. James off of there.
It's the old St. James system, that's why it's on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's
just wanted to clarify
ACUD one,
that we
but
don't send
it's
any to
the,
St.
we
James.
call it the ACUD on the St. James side, and the other one is Assumption side.
Right,
So,
so take St. James off for next time.
right. Right, you don't want to do that, Bill. Right, unless you do the north and south.
Y'all overruled me. I'm good with that. But,
Okay.
I mean, we don't send any water to St. James.
No, sir, no,
It's
sir.
just the name of the system.
And we don't buy any water from St. James either
Right.
anymore.
Item 14, Mr. Joseph's favorite item. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Joseph,
Second.
second by Mr. Dawson. We're adjourned.